It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we have our finger on the pulse of Japan. Oh wait, that's not our finger. The Talk Funny podcast from NagoyaRadio.com and Nagoya Comedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Here's Mark Bailey.
And welcome back to Talk Funny. I'm Mark Bailey. We're here again with Mike Miller from Nagoya Comedy, as well as I. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Mark?
Very good.
Good.
And I remembered a story. My very faithful program director, but he's probably not going to be listening. His name was Dennis Henson. He was super loyal to me. He would, I told you stories before about a guy who shook us down for the webmaster who shook us down for money. And, he was ready to bring baseball bats and all kinds of things. But he was very nervous for this one magazine interview that we did because I had just hired him, and he was afraid that his music tastes were not alongside of mine, and that's not important. I don't care. As long as you know music, you don't have to like what I like. We're not playing that. We're playing what the kids, what the young whippersnappers like. We're playing that. But we do classic rock sometimes. And the guy who interviewed him for a magazine was a British guy, and he said, "What do you think about Radiohead?" And Dennis he didn't listen to them. Mm-hmm. And he just recalled a joke that I told him earlier, but he forgot that I was kidding. So he said, he was serious. He said, I liked them better when they were U2. But he didn't laugh. And I'm like, I'm doing my Nick thing. No, that's a joke. But I wasn't able to do it. And he was, the guy's just running, and he goes, "I'm sorry?" "Yeah, I liked them better when they were U2. And he goes, "Is that a joke?" And he goes, "No, they used to be called U2. And he said, "Really?" And
nice.
Google was, of course, up and running at that time. And he goes, "Okay, we're going to fact check that later." But anyway, and I said, "Dennis, you're joking, Dennis." And he goes, "No, you told me that." I said, "Yeah, it's a joke." "Dennis, it's a joke." But he was sometimes you get so nervous that you don't get humor, Like when I go back to New York, sometimes a couple of my friends, they'll drive up, one of them is kind of connected. So when he says something, I just try to, if I can do what he says, you come with me. I'm coming with you, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he drove up and he goes, "Hey, we're going to go down to, we're going to go to Manhattan. We're going to eat at the most expensive Japanese place there is, and you're paying." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." He goes, "Get out of here. You're not paying. We're paying." I'm like, whatever, either one. I'm fine. You're with the mob. I'll pay. Yeah, so that's a story I had to get off my chest. We were talking earlier off mic, about some of our experiences dealing with open micers. Do you have any stories you want to share, or
me?
Your general?
Oh, I don't know. And we've had all sorts of people do open mic, and we've had some that are very good, who've become almost full timers. So yeah,
Steve started.
Steve started with open mic. He was really good.
And a lot of people have ended as open micers.
Yes,
they've ended their careers as open micers.
Yes.
Well, you don't MC a lot, and I do, and so the MCs usually have to deal with the open micers, and of course, no names here, but. The one thing that you want to, we've gotten some email from a lot of people. One of my former roommate, Jim, he's interested in that. He lives in Tokyo. He's interested. Some other people are interested in doing open mic in different places. And, it looks so easy when it's done well. When comedy's done well, it looks easy. I talked to Tim Linnane about this on a podcast earlier. That, I guess, I want to impress on people is that I'm actually not listening to your open mic. Because here's a kind of a stage secret. I'll give half of it away. Open mic is kind of a community involvement kind of thing that we do, and it's kind of PR. We're not there to listen. It's not like Mike has no ideas. I don't know what I'm going to do next month. What I'm going to write? Let's get some open micers in here and still there. No, we don't. We're not stealing your material. We're not even listening. I'm not listening. I'm timing you.
Well, you're the MC, so you've got other things to think about.
I'm timing you. It's a babysitting job because I just want you to do 3 minutes if we say 3, 5 if we say 5, because as I've said in an earlier podcast, I'm trying to get everybody home. I'm trying to get 7 guys on and off stage and on the train. And by train, I mean near your subway station.
Right. And for those of you living outside Japan, you have to realize that most of the trains here, a lot of people travel by train, and pretty much by 11:30, I think most of the trains going in and out of the city are finished. So you're basically stuck until 5 in the morning in town. It's not the most fun thing. And taxis are incredibly expensive. There's no Uber. So you're basically trapped. So the job of the MC is to make sure that everything runs according to schedule and that we get the audience, because the audience is going to start leaving anyways. Even if you go after 11, the audience is going to be leaving.
Well, the audience has to catch their train. And the venue owners are aware of that, and they want them to catch their train so that they will come back to another show. It's like, Yeah, well, last time I went to a comedy show, I went home with a poodle, and I spent like 13,000 yen on, which is like $140 on a taxi, that kind of thing. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to impress on open micers is that the time limit is actually very important, and you need to, just so we can get everybody through, because the audience is actually not there to see the open micers. Some of the audience is open micers, and they're not there to see you, and you didn't prepare. Maybe you don't write 10 minutes every month like we do. And so we actually have an act, and if you ruin the mood at the beginning, then it ruins our chance to make people laugh. So we had one incident where a guy went up, and then we cut him off at 5, and then he went online, which I didn't like, and on our page, and said, well, even people on the Tonight Show get 6 minutes. Excuse me, you're not Tonight Show material, okay? If Jimmy Fallon calls me up and says, hey, put this guy on for 6 minutes, I'll put you on for 6 minutes. But you had 2 minutes of jokes and you were up there for 5. That's bad, right? And then another time you'll have someone that says, well, I'll do open mic, but I don't want to pay to get in. Well, okay, does it work at concerts?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's much worse, I think, in the U.S., and I don't know if they have them in Canada, but in the U.S., apparently there's those bringer shows where they won't even let you stand up on stage unless you're bringing, 5 of your friends or 6 of your friends or something ridiculous
5,
like that.
Sometimes 10.
So you don't just have to pay yourself, you have to get 5 or 6 other people to pay along with you.
And it's also not good for you if you're taping for your portfolio, because a lot of clubs want to see you in front of a real audience, not your uncles and your cousins, because that doesn't count actually, and they're aware of the bringer shows. So, they want to see you in front of a real crowd. And a lot of them, for the portfolios, when you send in your video footage of you doing real stand-up comedy, they want to see the audience so they can see, there's a couple Indian people in there, there's a couple black guys. Not all of these people are related to this guy. So,
right.
And they're laughing. That's what they want to see.
Right.
And so, it's like open mic. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you do open mic, have a good attitude about it and don't complain. Don't complain about it, because you should not be complaining about the lighting or anything else. You should be writing. You should be listening to yourself and listening to the audience. So, then we'll have someone say, well, why do I have to pay to get in to do open mic? So, well, because you're a customer.
So you can't expect to walk into someone else's show and then just do a 10-minute open mic set right off the bat when they have no idea who you are. Right.
And we won't know exactly if our stuff's going to work or not. And so you have to listen while you're telling it. And it's like, I've got 2 more minutes of these bridge jokes, and nobody's getting these, so maybe I'll cut that out. You don't have that experience if you're doing open mic. You've never been on stage before. First of all, you're not even used to having a beginning and an end. That's a big problem. So you get off on open mic, you really shouldn't be trying anything out. You should have something that already kind of has made your friends laugh, and you put your strongest stuff at the end and put your second strongest stuff at the beginning. That's about 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever our limit is. And you don't just get up and introduce yourself and take 2 minutes to get to a joke, because now you're killing the mood. And I don't care about the open mic mood. I care about, as an MC, I have to get back up and go, believe it or not, we actually have some funny people on the way. If you'll just stick around and drink a little bit more, I promise these jokes will be funnier. But, open mic, that's one thing that Mike and I have kind of discussed off mic a lot, is I'm kind of conflicted about the meet and greet kind of thing, because sometimes the open micers get a little too friendly with me as an MC, and I don't really like that, because I'm your mom, I'm your babysitter, and don't call me by my first name. You know what I mean? I'm trying to teach you, and you're like, hey, can I go on third? Listen, open mic, watch Kill Tony.
That's we should Mr. Bailey for you, sir.
We should make everybody watch Kill Tony right before they go on open mic.
Yeah.
Because Kill Tony, if you're not familiar with it, go on YouTube and look for Kill Tony. It's extremely entertaining, and they have these people have 1 minute, basically 59 seconds, to do their act. And their name is called, they don't know. There's like 300 people's names in the hat. They don't know who's going to get called. So you're taken by surprise. You're probably in the middle of drinking a tequila.
And sometimes people are in the toilet and they don't even hear they don't even hear their name, and that's it. Better luck next time.
They call your name, and we have like 12 or 14 seconds to get to the stage. Otherwise, you're blacklisted to go to the next guy. And so we should make people watch that, because when I say 5 minutes, you need to know that it's 5 minutes. I don't know your act. I don't know that you have a funny closer or not, and maybe you don't. And I don't want to cut you off before your closer. I don't like doing that. But, we always ask people to pre-time it. So that's a problem. It's like, I'll say, okay, you're doing up a mic, and I'm going to put you on first. No, I'd rather go on third. Okay, why don't you write some more material and become a comedian? Then I'll put you on when you ask me to put you on. Okay, or have Jay Leno call in your place, and I'll put you on whatever order you want. Well, I'm giving you a chance here, and you're arguing. It's like, I think we should probably maybe put something in the website that says, for open mic, once you're called, you can either skip it or come on.
Just enjoy it. Don't have super high expectations, and don't worry yourself to death that about it has to be this way or it has to be. Just go with the flow, do your best, and it's if you like it, keep doing it. But there's no, I don't know. I don't see why people get so worked up about it. It's just open mic,
I kind of think of it as scuba diving, which I'm not very good at all, but it's kind of scuba diving. You don't really hang out on the bottom of the ocean a lot. And then when you do an open mic, you got 5 minutes. We're giving you, 5 minutes on the bottom of the ocean. You just feel your way around, see what it's like, see who you get along with when you're the one holding the oxygen mask, and see what it's like, feel it out. And then the next time you're going to say, this is what I'm going to do better, and I'm going to do this better next time. And you don't, and people may not laugh. You're on open mic, and people may not laugh, but you'll get a couple of laughs, and that's a hint for you to keep that in, cut out the stuff that didn't work. Do it again, write 2 more minutes. Before you know it, you've got like a good 4 minutes of people laughing.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, like Mark was saying, you have a limited amount of time up there. So, if you're going to do an introduction, don't waste a lot of time on an introduction or setting up some elaborate premise or anything, because you're just not going to have a time to deliver the punchline probably on the joke. So, keep it very, very short, and try and fit as much stuff as you can, as many laughs as you can in, and have a good time.
Yeah, I think it's good advice. And as Tim and I mentioned on an earlier podcast, you don't have to get up and do, you can do this, but you can do whatever you want at open mic, but we're trying to help you. If you actually want to do comedy, this is the fastest way. You get up, like Mike says, you don't do an intro and say, hi, I'm not from Japan, I'm actually a foreigner, and I don't know if you've ever heard
my
this.
My mom hates me, and my dog as well. And
I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I teach English, and, even for me, when I get up and I'm just, I'm a regular comic and I get up, I don't have to, there's some things that your demeanor says about you, so I don't have to get up and say, I'm really not that happy with my life, because you take a look at me and you can tell.
We know, Mark. Well, Mark, you were saying Steve Martin said that, right? Isn't that his advice when you get up on stage? Don't say, oh, it's a wonderful night tonight, all that. It's just patter.
Exactly.
Just get to the laugh.
Yeah, Steve Martin, he was talking about like open mic and beginning comedians, and he said, don't get up and go, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. That's for someone with a Netflix special who's got an hour. But, you get up, you get to the meat. Like the way I dress, I don't have to get up. I'm wearing a T-shirt and old jeans, and I'm going to get up. I don't have to say, you don't really care about the way I dress anymore. You can tell by looking at me I don't care. And you might be wondering why, so I'll just get up and say, not a lot of women want a piece of this recently, and you'll get it, and I don't have to explain it, right? You get to the meat and you do a joke, or some of the best comedians that are really fat, they get up and they never talk about being fat.
That is my favorite thing, when someone who is obviously some way, like I'm bald, and I get up, but I don't do bald jokes, because for me, that's just, I'm so tired of that humor. Or
who's going to do bald jokes?
Yeah.
I mean, you get up and, the fat guy, the black guys can talk about being black.
Yeah, that's who you are, so sure, work that into your comedy, but don't become a one-trick pony. There's too many one-trick ponies. Oh, did I mention I'm blah, blah, blah? And you're like, yeah, well, we kind of got that.
Ellen DeGeneres is actually very good at understatement, and she's really funnier than you. As a comedian, you would really like the way she's very understated and very deadpan. And one of my favorite things, we're going to go soon, but one of my favorite things was she was on, I think, Leno one time, and she's a blonde and she's a lesbian, and she had come out. But it was still, this was, I think, late 90s, so it was still kind of iffy if you can actually still have a career. And, she never, ever mentioned the L word. She came out, she goes, well, Jay, people like me. And he goes, yeah, people like you. He goes, I was afraid to bring that up. And she goes, well, people like me, we don't always say what we're thinking, and we don't always say who we're dating. And, by people like me. And he goes, I think I know what you mean. And she goes, blondes.
Nice.
So it's like you never talk about being fat or the bald thing because it's implied and it's funny, So we've been here with Mike Miller, and we'll do a couple more podcasts in the next few weeks. Thanks for coming by. And this has been Talk Funny.